Fitzy and Wippa.
Between 100 to 200 millimetres of rainfall yesterday. The winds pick up last night. It is a disaster zone at the moment. If you are waking up this morning, Matty de Groot will give you updates on your roads. Check your local areas, and hundreds of schools across Sydney have been closed for the day. But it is northern New South Wales that we need to focus on. A man who said that the flood images do not do it justice. It is catastrophic at the moment, and he's heading up to Lismore today, is our Premier, Dominic Perrottet. Thanks for joining us, Dom.
Morning, guys. How you going?
Good, mate. Where are you at the moment?
Just on transit across to Lismore, but obviously it's been a devastating time up here for many people, and there's a big job ahead of us. And yesterday we appointed the Deputy Police Commissioner Mal Lanyon to coordinate the recovery up here, but it's going to take a lot of time to get these communities back on their feet.
Can we focus on Lismore, Dom? Is it basically, has it all been decimated? Like, is it basically all of Lismore gone?
Well, it's terrible. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, just imagine it's 14.5 metres. I mean, there is debris everywhere, and if you're in the town centre, I mean, every business has been decimated. Homes have been lost. We've got around 1,000 people in temporary accommodation who've had to move away. But, guys, I'll make this point. The spirit and courage and bravery that I have seen over the last week up here makes me incredibly proud to be an Australian. I mean, people have just put their lives on the line, not to help just their mates out, but to help strangers out. And I've met so many people, and the SES and people who aren't registered volunteers who have just left their homes as they've been flooded, look after and save other people. You've just never seen anything like it. And I can't tell the stories enough, and the images on TV and in the papers really don't show as you are driving around. Let's take Lismore. You're driving around from one end of the town to the other, and there is just homes that have been destroyed, one after the other, businesses that have been completely washed out. The clean-up here is going to take a lot of time, and we've set up these structures in place. My focus here is to get the clean-up conducted as quickly as possible, to get people into housing, to provide financial support, fix the roof. We've had bridges washed away. I mean, when you come into Lismore, on the first day I came into Lismore, there's fridges in trees.
God.
I mean, you can't imagine. Like, I can't do it justice. But my focus is to get every one of our people up here back on their feet as quickly as possible.
Tom, a further 5,000 Australian Defence Force troops have been deployed in the area to help with the clean-up. I suppose the big thing is, where do you start? I mean, you've got the homes, then you've got the main street and the businesses. Is it just rubbish removal, and where does all that go? Like, where do you kick things off?
Well, did you say where do you start? I mean, it can be overwhelming. You speak to a lot of the business owners, and I was speaking to Catherine, a local publican here. She had to close during the 2017 floods. It's now, I mean, and that was at the level of the bar. This one's over the roof.
Right.
So we were having the same conversation about where do you start. You just got to take it one day at a time. The cleanup to me is the number one priority right now, and we're working very closely with the council on disposal. We had 4,000 tonnes of debris collected in just one day.
Wow.
I mean, this gives you a sense of it, and but yeah, it's multifaceted, but you've just got to have different streams of work alongside each other, getting the cleanup done, importantly getting people into not just emergency accommodation, but finding longer-term accommodation for them as well, and we're working really hard on that, and then giving people the financial support just to give them the hope that
hope's a big one.
Are you in charge of those defence troops as well? I mean, they've been copping it quite a bit yesterday as a marketing campaign. Dom, there's been cameras out, filming what they've been doing, and a lot of people have been asking, what have they actually been doing? We are deploying more up there, but are you in charge of that, just to control of what they are going to do?
Yeah, so the federal government has given the state the authority to direct those that work, and they'll be doing a lot in the immediate term in relation to assisting with the cleanup, and that's going to be very well received. And that presence on the ground here is much greater. You can really sense that, and that provides a lot of support to many in the local communities who have felt isolated and abandoned, particularly in more remote communities up here. But they'll also be doing things like putting up temporary bridges where we need crossing to occur. So they're on the ground. That's incredibly pleasing. Plus, so many members of the SES, thousands of SES workers, RFS workers. It's a massive team effort. And as hard as it is, and you talk about where do you start, and as overwhelming as the scenes are, I cannot say enough how overwhelming the spirit is here. And there's so many stories. The one most was, I ran into somebody who showed me on his phone that, we were telling people not to go out, but everyone didn't look after themselves. This guy goes out in a jet ski and goes up to a 2-story house that's flooded, almost the front door. On the second story, he calls in, and out comes a little 4-year-old boy in a life jacket.
Oh my gosh!
And he takes him to safety. But that's guys, that's just one.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of these stories right across the board. But one thing I know is we're going to get it done. It's going to take time, but we're going to get the job done.
Dom, closer to the city here, Camden, the Manly Dam as well. Some of the images out of there. Will you be visiting that area?
Yeah, I was obviously in Sydney yesterday, and we'll be down there. I mean, there's flooding right across the state. We've never seen anything like it. And what's pleasing to see is that the weather forecast is predicted to improve towards the back end of this week. They say the Bureau is saying Thursday it should clear, but then we've got winds picking up. But that doesn't mean that the flood levels won't continue to rise. And it's not just Camden, it's Hawkesbury and Nepean. We've got 40,000 people subject to evacuation orders. And it's just important to know if those orders are in place, people need to get out. And if those warnings are in place, which generally comes first, you get an evacuation warning. If that comes in, you get ready to leave. You get the order, you get out. And it's really important people do that because the SES know what's coming. They've assessed it, and many people won't see the initial impact in front of them, but we've just got to follow those instructions and keep people safe.
Too true.
We know how busy you are, Premier, but we really appreciate your time. Good luck in Lismore today, mate. Obviously, there's going to be some harrowing images that you do see up there, and thanks for coming on the show, Dom.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dom. Take care.
So, I mean, the only positive, I suppose, with that wind picking up is it was drying a little. It was drying the roads out a little bit. But it was just, there was trees coming down last night as well. The SES were very, very busy.
Flat out.
If you've been affected, give us a call, 13 24 10. James in Freshwater, what happened with the floods at your joint, Jim?
Oh, g'day, boys. Shelley Beach at Manly yesterday was just unrecognisable. There was a river knee-deep just flying down the hill. I usually run there every couple of days along Manly and up to Shelley Beach, and it was unrecognisable yesterday. Could not believe it.
Jimmy, what about your house, mate? Much damage there?
We've got a pretty faulty deck out the back, and it was coming in through the holes in the roof of it, but luckily inside's all good.
Yeah, some of those photos in Manly where the 2 buses were in the main street there, and then you've got the women being helped out of the car by the SES workers. It's extraordinary.
James, did you go down to Freshwater Beach? Could you even get near there?
I've just come from there now, and there's not a lot of beach left.
No.
There's a bit of sand. Usually there's a lot of sand, but it's going to take a couple of weeks to get back to its glory.
And there's all that driftwood as well.
Yeah,
It's just and it's just all around the harbour. The water is just such a horrible brown. I don't know how long that will be to flush out.
It all floats down from the Hawkesbury, so you've got all sorts of debris in the water.
Heath, in Oran Park, your work has been affected by the floods, Heath.
Yeah, mate, we're building a new airport, so we haven't worked for nearly 3 weeks now.
Oh, my God, of course. What's the state of things there, Heath? Do you know?
No, they did a management report yesterday, but most of it will be reworks with all the topsoil being
right.
the end of the drains and all that kind of stuff. But, we're 3/4 of the way through the job.
And Heath, is that you putting your feet up saying, keep raining, I don't mind, I'm getting paid, I'm at home?
No, we're mostly opposite, mate. We don't want to do our reworks.
Yeah, too true.
Of course, Heath. That'll be so. I can't land the Cessna today down there, Heath. Not ready yet.
Nah, you can try.
Okay, yeah, I'll have a crack.
Have a crack at it.
Chantel in Tamor, what's happened with your place with the floods?
We had our 2 bedrooms and the whole back area flooding down inside the house.
Oh, no. How flooded was it, Chantel?
The carpets went halfway through to the middle of the room. We couldn't handle it, so we had to rip them up.
Do you reckon, insurance-wise, have you checked that out, Chantel? Are you covered?
Oh, what a joke. We rang Wednesday last week, still haven't heard from them, and probably not going to be worth it, to be honest. So we'll just pay for it.
See, this is the thing. Like, even if you do have insurance, to get through, number one, you finally get through. Then to have someone to come out and look at it will take a while as well. We're talking mould now as well. Mould in houses is just going to be a huge problem.
It's bad for your health.
And, well, if you've got kids, it's horrible. You've got to get it fixed pretty quickly. I don't know how this is going to happen. I mean, it is a long process. But insurance-wise, that is going to take you months and months and months.
Yeah, imagine how busy they'll be. I mean, you're right, and just the stench, once it gets in, you can't get it out.
We spoke to our Premier, Dominic Perrottet, earlier today, and he was explaining SES warnings and how you should approach that over the next couple of days.
We've got 40,000 people subject to evacuation orders, and it's just important to know if those orders are in place, people need to get out.
Yep.
And if those warnings are in place, which generally comes first, you get an evacuation warning. If that comes in, you get ready to leave, you get the order, you get out. And it's really important people do that because the SES know what's coming. They've assessed it, and many people won't see the initial impact in front of them, but we've just got to follow those instructions and keep people safe.
Heed the warning. What about this one? On a bit of a lighter note, somebody reporting on the floods as a car drove past became slightly unprofessional when he realised he was going to be drenched by the travelling car.
We've received a lot of rain overnight, a lot of the canals around Jemison Park. Just slow down, buddy, otherwise you go... Woo. Slow. Oh, come on.
Oh, whoa.
You... Oh, excuse the language, but that's a smart ass.
The car has completely drenched him on the side of the road.
I mean, it's affected a lot of people this morning. Belinda in Mount Colah, what happened to your place while you're on your honeymoon, Belinda?
Oh, the honeymoon was amazing in Tasmania. The weather was perfect. We flew back into turbulence, and then we got home, and our garage in Mount Colah was completely flooded. We've managed to salvage quite a few things, and then in the house, the ceiling caved in.
Oh.
And, it's nothing in comparison to people from Lismore and the Hawkesbury and the Nepean. But it was just a shock to come home to that when we'd been watching the news and there was no reporting on Mount Colah.
No.
Yeah. Belinda, anything really special that you've lost?
Probably not, really, to be honest, because we just buy so much crap in our lives, don't we? We don't really need it. We've got the photos. And that's what's most important.
Yeah, well said,
Great
Belinda.
outlook, Belinda. And you found love, Belinda. So you still love him? I mean, it's only the honeymoon, but you still love him?
Yeah, well, the honeymoon's over, but I tell you what, I'm over the moon. You know, I was a single mum for 8 years, and
over the honeymoon.
Yeah.
Oh.
He doesn't listen to you guys, though, so there is an issue. I've got to get him on board.
Good on you, Belinda.
Good on you, Belinda. Work on that, please.
Thank you so much for your call. Felicity on the Central Coast, what happened to your friends who live in Tarawong?
They live in a place called Tuggerawong. They've been living there for just over 3.5 years, and for 3 years running, they've been flooded right through the bottom of their house. It's been like the mud's come in, the seaweed's been in. They've had to move everything from the bottom floor up. The first year they had costs of $100,000 of insurance.
Oh my God!
Don't know what it was last year, and they had the insurers in again yesterday. And as I said, it's not as bad as what it has been, but it's just the same thing. We go down, put the gumboots on and head on down and, help them clean it all up. So, yeah.
To Felicity, there's a lot of these people and they love where they live and where they grew up, and you ask them, have you ever thought about moving if this has happened to them 3 years in a row? What's their answer?
Yeah, it's interesting you should ask that because my husband's a civil engineer, and when they were looking at moving down there, he actually said to them, you're moving into a 100-year flood zone.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that'll be okay. And I think, my girlfriend said to me on the weekend, I'm not ready to throw it in yet, but we're just about ready to, I think. And then the neighbours, a couple of them are actually going to put their houses up for sale. And
I bet.
That too. Are they going to get the money that they've paid for it? And, knowing what they're moving into, you may not get that
what
you've put into it. So
amazing too, though, that for the third year in a row that it's happened that they still actually do have insurance and there's a company prepared to insure them.
Well, that's going to be a thing, isn't it? I know that we've got other friends that live at a little place called Marty, and we're only talking to them on the weekend. They can't afford it anymore. $22,000 a year.
Wow.
That is madness.
It's ridiculous. Northern Beaches yesterday was just a nightmare. Michael Regan, who is the mayor of the Northern Beaches, is in Manly now. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
Michael, some of the images were unbelievable. I mean, yesterday when obviously you realised that it was worst case in Manly, what did you do? Where did you go?
Yeah, it was pretty biblical, wasn't it? I mean, we were cut off at some stage. I mean, who ever thought you'd close the Roseville Bridge? It was just water coming from both sides, and it was just a pool, and thank goodness no one was hurt. And then we saw what was happening down in McKellar Girls, and we expect Narrabeen Lagoon, and we expect some of the other areas, but it was just full on. So we just, unfortunately, have been preparing for the worst, and we had things ready to go straight away should they get worse, which they did, but not to the extent we thought. Like sandbags and stuff were readily available, so but we're out there helping each other do all that, which was great. But it was just unbelievable.
Is that the first time that you've ever known that there's been an evacuation from Manly, Michael?
Not probably the first time for myself. I think but talking to some of the locals who have been here forever, like 70, 80 years, first time they've seen anything this bad, 100%, because it was just so quick, so relentless, and it's just, they just did not see it coming, and it was extraordinary.
Are there still surfers out, Michael?
I was down there this morning at 7 o'clock, and there were people playing volleyball on the sand, and there's the odd surfer out there yet.
Isn't that madness? Especially as the wind picks up over today and the next couple of days.
Well, you'd think there'd be debris in the water as well, Michael, wouldn't there?
Oh, of course there'll be debris in the water and the things, and I guess the surfers they've got their own attitudes and mentality and I think an experience. So I'll leave it to them to make those decisions. And the experts say stay out, so the majority of us stay out. But look, we're not doing it as tough as say at Lismore and hearing your stories there. So we're not going to complain too much. But yeah, we're just getting on with the cleanup today. But it's the winds now that we're worried about. They're full on and lots of tree damage and lots of rock slips and landslides and the like overnight. So they're dealing with those assessments now. So it's pretty. It's going to be a busy day or busy few weeks.
Thank you for your time, Michael. Good luck with everything today, mate.
No, thank you very much for checking in.
Always.
The Fitzy and Wippa Show is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcast.com.au.